Good morning.
Good morning. It's July 16th, 2023.
3. Yeah.
Let's get the year right. And
You
we're
can tell
so
we're getting
happy to
older.
be
We have
with
to
you.
struggle with what year it
What
is. Yeah.
year is it? Yeah,
Yeah.
there've been so many.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Are we going
it's
to Woodstock this
it's
year? No, no.
it's good to be with you. Good to be with you this morning, and we're happy to be talking about speaking truth to circumstances.
Yes,
And I'll explain that in a second, but first, let's open with an opening affirmative prayer.
I like it.
So we go within to that place within each of us that is one with all that is, one with our Creator, one with our infinite intelligence and universal love. And we know that as being one with it, we also claim all the attributes that we claim for God, for Creator. And those attributes are abundance, first of all. Nothing that has been created in finite terms, but always exists in multiplicity, far more than we could even imagine. It includes peace, power, joy, love, life, light, and wisdom. All of those are the attributes within us. And as we focus on them, they grow and expand. As we think about them, as we believe that about ourselves, we too become that. We give thanks for this teaching. We give thanks for this knowing, for it makes our life immeasurably better. We give thanks, we release, and together we say,
And so it
and
is.
so it is. So, what we mean by speaking truth to circumstances. The circumstances, we're referring to the circumstances in our life, which are always changing. and and of course we give attention to what's going on in our life right now, but speaking truth to them means to speak what is eternally true, because truth with a capital T has to be eternally true. And so while we may be temporarily experiencing a hardship here or hardship there, that's not what we want to focus on all our life, because what we focus on, what we think about, the tendency of our thought reproduces itself in actuality, because the law of attraction attracts to it like things. So, for example, Ernest Holmes said in the Science of Mind uh, book on page 306, what we demonstrate today, that means what we attract to ourselves based on what we're focusing on and thinking. What we demonstrate today, tomorrow, and the next day is not as important as the tendency which our thought is taking, the dominant attitude of our mind. If everyday things are a little better, a little happier, a little more harmonious, a little more health giving and joyous, if each day we are expressing more life, we're going in the right directions and in the right direction. So, as I said, the circumstances are always changing. Some we like, some we don't like. But that's not the main thing to focus on. What we want to focus on is more good, more health. And I have noticed, and I wanted to ask you if you may have noticed, that in these past few years and continuing right up to now, you've experienced such hardships with our circumstances, with a pandemic, having to stay indoors, everything changes, the cost of living changing, getting older, uh, noticing health challenges. The tendency of our thought can be pretty negative.
Yeah.
And what we can be expecting and anticipating happening in the future can also be more negative than it has ever been. So as we prepared this talk, I really thought about it. How much time am I spending on circumstances instead of truth?
Mhm.
So I have determined that I will spend more time focusing on truth, on those attributes of God that are my attributes. Because as I focus on them, as I focus on health, as I focus on joy, as I focus on prosperity, that's what and it makes me happy to think about those things. So it makes me happier. and it attracts more of what I want. And it's very easy to lose track of that when you get into all of the day-to-day worries or concerns. You're sitting there agreeing with me. Do you have anything you'd like
Oh
to
yeah,
add?
oh yeah. I was
Okay.
waiting
Waiting for
waiting for you
a
to slow
place to
down. Yeah.
sit.
No, I've lost all of it, but yeah. So go ahead.
Well, so this is something we talk about in our classes, but it cannot be talked about often enough. What is the tendency of our thinking? And it helps to check in once in a while.
Yeah.
What are my thoughts? How much time am I spending?
Well, I think it's a time to take a look at some of our core beliefs. And the core belief I think that we need to examine first and foremost is, do I believe that the universe is in favor of me, or is it not? And I know that's a very, very basic question, but we often operate in the world as if the world or the universe is not in favor of us. And we try to develop strategies to manage a universe that's not in favor of us, rather than affirming that the universe is in favor of us and then doing whatever's next. I often ask for people for prayer treatment. And when I'm asking for treatment, I'm not asking for suggestions about how to live my life better. I'm not asking for support in coming up with better ideas. I'm asking for someone to affirm the truth of my being, which is that I am prosperous, or that I am whole, or that I am wealthy, or that I am wise, whatever it is that I want. And so what we're looking at is to affirm, or if we don't have that belief, to ask ourselves, why don't we? Why don't we believe the universe is in favor of us? But if we tend to believe, as often happens, that the universe is not in favor of us, then we tend to have a reactive kind of process that's going on, that we're constantly trying to survive. We're trying to make it through another day, rather than the universe is in favor of me. And the truth is, from my point of view, the universe is in favor of you, because if it didn't want you here, you wouldn't be here. So if you're here, then the universe is in favor of you. Now, could you be in favor of you? Could you be in favor of you to the point where you affirm every day in every way that you are wiser and wealthier and healthier? And can you get other people to support that affirmation, so that when you slip and slide and fall down, somebody else, oh, that's okay. Let me remind you of this truth that I know. And we forget this basic truth. And I think the problem is that we're problem solvers. And so typically when somebody brings us a problem, or we have a problem, we want to go about developing a way to solve the problem, rather than realizing that our thinking could be the problem. That is, our point
Right.
of view, our perspective could be the problem we have to overcome. If you keep trying to overcome the problem with the problem of, I don't believe in this world, you'll constantly be confronted with conditions that will tell you that you don't believe in the world that you live in. So when you believe in yourself, and you believe that you were made right, that you were made whole, well, then it's a matter of discovering how best to move through this world for you, to enjoy it. That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, and it's natural that we have to work on this a little bit, because
Oh,
in the process of growing up, you're not told every day what a wonderful blessing you are.
yeah, really.
How thrilled we are with you. We're so thrilled we are that you're here. You don't hear that from your teachers. You always hear about what you need to do better,
Hmm.
differently, next. And so no, even though nobody may ever tell you you're not enough, you get the idea you're not enough yet. You're expected to learn to do this, learn to do that, do this better, do that better, treat your siblings better.
Well, I
You
wouldn't
know,
go that far.
any number of things that
Right.
that we can decide we're less than worthy.
I'm reminded of Jean Houston. You may or may not know her. She's a really quite a famous person, and has authored a number of books, and is really quite brilliant. And she leads extraordinary workshops, and all of her thinking and all of her work that I've seen is about living the impossible dream. It's about stretching further than anybody thought they could stretch. But what I know about her is that when she was growing up, she was told 1,000 times, 100,000 times, by the people that she was with and by her parents, that she could do anything. And so the tendency for her is to believe in the greater rather than in the less. And I really want us to pay attention to that tonight today is, are you giving your attention to the less of you rather than the more of you? Are you giving attention to the idea you have of a small you rather than a grand you? And it doesn't mean that it's an ego issue when you recognize your own grandness or your own greatness. It simply means you're now in touch with the resources you have to create that life that is believable for you.
And I know many of you who are watching this, and I know some of the hardships
We're preaching to the
you
choir.
you have experienced. So stuff happens in
Yeah.
life. That's hard. You know, we lose loved ones. They get ill, they die. And that can take a lot of bandwidth of our thinking
Mhm.
for years at a time of watching things happen that you don't want to happen, and watching a loved one be in pain that causes you pain. It's hard to have your thinking always be positive
Yeah.
and even about yourself when these things are happening. And that's happened to me in the past few years. And so naturally it changes your thinking.
Right.
And it has created, I believe in me, some illnesses that I've largely overcome, thank goodness. But it made sense to me when I got them. It's like, oh, well, look what you've been thinking
Yeah.
about for years now and suffering with. So you can't be in pain and not create more areas of pain in your body, unfortunately. So, well, we have to recognize it and do what we can to change it and be and look for the positive. Look for what is good. Look for what you can anticipate that's better. Uh, we don't have a very good expectation for what happens to you as you age in our culture.
Well, we tend to wait, we tend without meaning to live in a world in which we're all waiting for the other shoe to drop. We're waiting for the condition that we are most afraid of to manifest, and we're hoping we can beat it or hide from it, rather than recognizing that when one door is closed, another one is opened. And I'm reminded of an architect uses his eyes a lot. There's no question about it. Well, this architect became blind. Now, what he could have done is said, I guess my life is over. And I think he probably said that for the first few months. I can't do what I was here to do. But then he became an architect for the construction of buildings for the blind, where, and he's, and when,
Not just for the blinds, but
oh,
to
yeah,
make them more usable for blind people.
right. And so when he was asked if he would love to get his sight back, and he said, no, not really. No, no. So, because I think sometimes the sight we have is limited by the beliefs we have rather than the quality and character of our eyes. And so what we really need to do, and what I'm recommending, and I do this, I've been doing this a lot lately, is asking myself, what is taking up most of the time in my day as far as my thinking? What do I think a lot about? And is it in favor of me? Is it a problem that has to be solved? Is it joy and grace and love and peace? What am I giving my attention to? What you're giving your attention to, whether you like it or not, is going to be obviously what you spend your time on and with, and it's going to
And
shape
attracting.
and it's going to shape the condition of life and the conditions around you. One of the people that I work with, she's a social worker, and I do my best to avoid her. And the reason I avoid her, I say, "How are you?" "Well, not very good today. This place is just terrible. You know what they're doing. This is every single day. Her only conversation is, well, that person showed up late today. That doesn't work." And what I think is really interesting is that she's also talked to me a few times about how people aren't as friendly as they used to be, and how they don't have the level of kindness. And I thought, wow, when was the last time that you demonstrated any kindness toward anybody? So what she's not seeing, and what I don't see when I'm in the same kind of space, is the effect I'm having on other people and what they're going to give me back. If you're not getting from other people what you want, the question is, what are you putting out? And what are you putting out that you're having to live in the middle of? If your life is only better when somebody else is in it, then it does say something about you're not being very happy with the life that you're in. How can you change that? What can you do in favor of that? So basic premise number one is life is in favor of me. Judith just
I've
disappeared.
gone
There she,
away.
ooh, they scare me like that. Married 35 years and like that, she's gone. Yeah. We're talking about losses and gains. Okay. But I think first off is the universe is in favor of you, and say that to yourself. The universe is in favor. Life is in favor of me. And if it weren't, I wouldn't be here. Now, how could I favor me? How could I favor me
Mhm.
and savor the taste of life if I'm not doing that right now? So for me, it's walking a little bit slower to the car in the morning when I go to work to pay attention to the birds. and what they're doing, and getting to know them and saying hello to them. The other day, there was a woman out exercising, and she was flailing her hands, exercising. I said, "Don't do that. That's how we get hurricanes." And she laughed, I laughed, we laughed. Why not have a positive, enjoyable conversation? I said, "I'm going to work. I got to do this." Yeah,
Um, so I wondered if we could actually, if we had a little counter going on
yeah,
in our head and counted the minutes and seconds and hours that we spend thinking about what we don't like about our life or our situation. And if we could count what we do like, I think we'd be surprised how much
yeah,
negative thinking we
yeah,
do.
yeah,
And it doesn't take much to turn it around, just
yeah.
a little reminder of what do I have to be grateful for. It's one of the best things that you can do. What do I have to be grateful for? Because they're sitting right here that oh yeah, I forgot about that. I'm so busy about complaining about this or worried about that that I thought, wow, I have a huge thing to be grateful for.
It's really hard to be worried and grateful at the same time.
Yeah, it
And so
is.
every time you choose gratitude, you can start off simply, I'm grateful that I'm not more worried than I am. Uh, I mean, I'm grateful that I'm here. You can start out with small steps towards gratitude. You may not be able to take the big ones, but when you're heading in the direction of gratitude, you find yourself living a more grateful life. And when you find yourself spending more time in your worry, the thing I know about worry is you never quite get to the point of the solving of the problem as much as the ability to go deeper into the worry. And what I also found is that one worry tends to lead to another. And so the more you're on that track, the more likely you are to be stuck in life is not fair, life is not good, it's a dangerous place. I don't know if I can do this. And that's a tough one on the body too.
So, but it is this tendency of thought that you
Yeah,
have. So, so you can turn it around. You can really turn it around just by being grateful. And, we don't have to solve all the problems. A lot of them just work themselves out.
yeah.
They just work themselves out. And what you thought you would have to deal with, you don't have to deal with at all. Uh, but it's important to keep your thoughts positive, keep your expectations positive. And because when you realize you're creating it, you want it to be a happy time. And that's our gift. That's our gift from the creator. We can do that. And God wants us to be happy and healthy. And so it's nice to know that. It's nice to be reminded of that because and I hate to keep being a downer on the media, but I'm really starting to monitor closely what I watch. And if it's not making me feel good, it gets turned off
Mhm.
because I don't need more things
Well,
to be worried about.
I think if you could watch the things that are negative and not have that carry you into a space where you start adding that to anything else that's going on, if we could simply be an observer, but if we can't be an observer of the negative and be glad that we're not participating in it, then we have to be careful that we don't become a participant in fear. And one of the other things about fear that's really important is when you're afraid, your brain and your consciousness and everything is in this survival mode, and it doesn't work as well. You don't see the things that other people see when you're scared. You don't see life in all of its beauty when you're scared. So if you're scared, ask yourself, what am I afraid of, and do I need to be afraid right now? What is scaring me, and could I set that aside? Could I be scared of it later? And so the ability to set aside what you're afraid of or what's generating fear is an opportunity for you to awaken to your own good. It's difficult to be seeing yourself as an extension of God, as an aspect of God, as a principle that is in it, that life is in favor of when you're thinking negatively and when you're scared.
But we know so many cases where people, for example, got negative diagnoses and negative life expectancy reports. Oh, you better go
Yeah,
home and get your affairs in order. And they have totally turned it around
sure.
by, oh, for example, one man was an editor, very hardworking editor of a magazine, and he was told he had an incurable disease, and he should go into the hospital just to manage the pain. And he did that for a few days, and he got to look at his costs of that, got the first hospital bill or something. And he thought, God, why do I want to do this? I could be in a top-notch hotel with room service for what I'm paying to be here. And so he did that. He checked himself into a top-notch hotel with room service, and he had the TV in his room. And what he asked them to play were his favorite comics all the time. Probably got a DVR, did a video
No,
player.
actually, he rented a bunch of videotapes.
Right, that's what
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
trying
so,
to say.
yeah.
And I think and all of his favorite comedians is what he watched. He laughed all
For a month.
for all day long.
Yeah.
And after that time, his incurable disease went away because he was not worrying about it, he was not thinking about it, he was not stressing
Mhm.
himself. He laughed himself to health.
So you could ask the question, was he dying from the disease or a lack of laughter?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
I think if we have a lack of joy that goes on long enough, we will eventually succumb to the pain and the suffering. We have to trade it in. I come home sometimes from work because I work in an environment where there's a lot of negativity because the people that I'm working with are very, very sick. And so sometimes the only way I can get away from that when I come home, because I can go over that in my head, what should I have done? What could I have done that would have been better? What could have worked? I'll watch 20 minutes or half an hour of comedy. Robin Williams being interviewed by
Mhm.
can't think of his name.
Jonathan Winters.
No,
Jonathan Winters.
but Johnny Carson.
Oh, Johnny
being
Carson.
interviewed by Johnny Carson. 5 minutes into that, even if I've seen it a dozen times, I can't stop laughing. And what I have to start doing when I'm in trouble is breathing and laughing, and
Uh-huh.
not necessarily when something bad is happening. People think you're crazy then, but being able to see the comedy in life, to see the places to laugh in life, it's difficult to laugh and worry at the same time. And so we have to make a decision. And what I find when I'm worried is it don't bother me right now. I'm busy worrying. Okay, I got to worry this thing to a conclusion. And usually what happens is I conclude that there's never enough worry to solve a problem.
It's true. That's true. So let's choose to notice our thought patterns, the tendency
Yeah.
of our thought. You don't manifest every single thing you think about, but the tendency. Does your thinking make you happy or does it make you depressed? Because we talk about anxiety and depression, but we don't talk about how we can actually create our own anxiety and
Yeah.
depression
Now
by
there's
the tendency of our thoughts.
now there's a step in there, and this happens on a regular basis. The Hell I Can't, the author of the Hell
Terry McBride.
Terry McBride. I love this man, even I can never remember his name. Terry McBride. There's a bridge here that's really an important bridge to cross. When you're worried about something, you're worried about it because at some level it feels like an unsolvable problem. It feels like whatever this thing is that's stacked against you, there's no way that you can get around it. And what you're trying to do is to find a logical, reasonable way to get around it based on your current information, which is often not enough. So what Terry McBride says, which I love this when he was very, very sick, he said, I'm going to get better. In fact, I'm getting better. And somebody said, well, how's that going to happen? He says, I don't know. It's a mystery.
No, he said, excuse me for correcting, he said, I wouldn't be surprised.
That's what he said. That's from Shakespeare in Love. Yeah.
That's
Wrong. Okay. Can we erase this part on the video? Because now it looks like I've lost my mind. Yeah.
It doesn't matter where
Yeah,
the
no,
good thoughts come
but it's
from.
the same, it's the same thing. Yeah, he said, I wouldn't be at all surprised if tomorrow morning when I wake up, I feel better. And why that's important is because you have to edit into your conversation room for miracles, room for the unexplainable, room for things to happen that could not, never happen. And
No, but he really saw himself getting well.
oh yeah,
And
but he didn't have to know how.
he was in the hospital for years with, I don't know how many operations.
Oh yeah, so
Because you just had to have more and more body parts taken out. But he was insistent that he was going to get totally well. And he couldn't explain how, so he'd just say, I wouldn't be surprised if,
Yeah.
in a week or so, I'm going to be much
Right.
better.
and if you've seen
And he did, he got totally well.
And-
And now he coaches people into how to
That's
turn
right.
around their illnesses.
right. And if that doesn't work, watch Shakespeare in Love and watch.
That is, we watched
It's
it again.
a,
It's a great
I got
movie.
those two confused, right? But every time they're going to do something that's impossible, And what the person says, I don't know how it's going to happen. Well, how's it going to happen? I don't know. It's a mystery. And, if we could allow for more
For more
mystery,
mystery,
for more
yes.
mystery, for more surprises, I'd
Yeah.
love to be surprised with the abundance that I know is mine. I'd love to be surprised by even greater abundance than I thought was possible. I don't know how that could possibly happen, but I know it can. As
Yeah.
opposed to, well, I can't figure this out. I guess we're going to be in this situation forever.
Well, it can, and
Of
you more
course.
likely than others because you have such talent with your art and your writing.
Yeah. Every time I'm on CBS Sunday morning, I wonder what famous person is seeing this and is going to call the station and say, whose art is that? Could I have more of it? That's so much better than somebody who said, are you getting paid for those? How much do you don't get paid
Do
that
they
much?
acknowledge
Do
you?
they
Do they
acknowledge
give
you?
you?
Yeah.
They don't.
No, but what you don't know is that it's a statement in the universe, and the right people will see what you're doing, and you're one of the right people that has to see it first.
Yeah,
And if you can't see your own good, why are you surprised that other people have difficulty seeing it?
indeed. So
Wow.
I think we can wrap this up. Do you want to close this with a prayer?
Yeah, and then we're going to do an offering.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
right.
that's
Yes,
right.
indeed.
Yeah, so let's know together right here and right now that everything we need at every level of need, at every level of our desire is present and available for us. We simply now, sitting at this smorgasbord of life, get to choose what it is we want to serve ourselves. And we say yes and thank you for all of those things that are available to us, for the opportunity to make such wonderful and dynamic choices, and for all that we learn through each choice that we make and each thing that is given to us in this wonderful life that is ours to live. Knowing this is true and having this positive attitude, we say thank you, we are grateful, and we know together it is so, and so it is.
So it is.
And now we got to go to, we don't got to go to,
Screen
we got
share.
to go to screen share. Just a second here. I'm gonna do this today. I got this. Okay, and we're gonna do share. Okay. So every week, what we do is we ask you to support this ministry. And the reason we ask you to support this ministry is we can't do it by ourselves. And although we are abundant in our lives and you're abundant in your lives, we're saying, please share your abundance with us and help us be more abundant in our ministry to reach more people. To do that, you can go to cslpalmbeaches.org and you'll see on that page a place that you can click where you can donate as much as you would like. And I would say, give as much as it takes to feel good.
I would say that too. And let's read the affirmation. This is an affirmation for each one of you and for us.
Yeah, clearly.
My investment today is made with a full realization that God is the source of my supply and returns it to me enriched and multiplied. And together we say, and
And
so
so
it
it
is,
is.
or amen.
Okay, so now we're going to stop recording.